Thank you guys for being here. This is really awesome. I guess I incorrectly anticipated a slightly smaller group, but this is fun. Let's just start, right? So yesterday I was working with Rob Fix, the bar manager at Craigie-on-Main, to teach an introductory spirits and cocktail class to 120 MIT nerds over their January term. And we talked a lot about tasting in an academic way, tasting in an objective way, something that they weren't very familiar with. And I'm going to assume that this group has probably engaged in some level of wine tasting, some level of spirit tasting before. So we're going to dive right in, and I will dig into a few of the details as well. But let's start with number one. They're in small plastic cups because you don't actually need to swirl your spirit around. You don't need to do any of that fancy wine stuff. You don't need to stick your nose directly into it. You shouldn't take short, sharp sniffs because you'll just damage yourself in a way that will make the wine far less enjoyable later. But let's just let that waft up into your nose. And I'm not the only one that's going to talk this morning. You guys are too. What do you smell?
Bell pepper.
Bell pepper?
Butterscotch.
Butterscotch. A little bit, yeah. Which is kind of weird, but it's true. Toast. Thank you. I know it's like 8 a.m. bartender standard time, but we certainly have a certain verbiage that we use for tasting spirits, but these scents that you're smelling, these aromas, should all remind you of familiar things. You've been tasting and smelling things for 20 plus years, right? And so they may remind you of some things that you may not think is the right word to use, or you've never heard it used in a spirit write-up or a wine write-up or anything like that, but anything is really appropriate. The first time that you taste something, right, it's just going to attack the hell out of your palate, right? You're going to be like, wow, that tastes like alcohol. Wow, that's like sharp, burning, hurts, right? So you're going to take a little bit, you're going to put it on your tongue, you're going to let it kind of roll around a little bit, and then you're going to spit it out. And you let that sort of coat your palate. It's going to tell you some things right off the bat, but pay no attention to it for now. You'll feel that alcoholic burn. This is right around 40% alcohol by volume, right? It's kind of a lot to be consuming at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, but that's okay. It started at 62.5, but I watered it down, so you're welcome. So now let's take a little bit more this time, and let's take that, put it on your tongue, let it roll around your mouth, feel it under your gums, under your tongue, up on your upper palate. Now the main question that I want to get at is, does it taste the same way that it smelled to you? Or are there things that are there that you didn't get on the nose? More vanilla on the palate?
And lemon.
Lemon, for sure. A lot of lemon. Yeah, it has a certain kind of acidity to it, right? It's got a little bit of sharpness. It's very bright.
Roasted pineapple.
Roasted pineapple. Yeah, a little tropical fruit, for sure. Do we know what this spirit is made from?
Corn.
Corn. Why do you say that, Nick Moreland?
Tastes like corn.
It tastes like corn. Okay, I guess it's a very valid answer. It tastes like things that are sweet, right? And I think that's a pretty big tell, right? Let's take number 2 now. What I care about knowing about number 2 is, how does this smell different than number 1? Caramel, toffee, vanilla extract, marshmallow, cocoa, yeah. Is this more expressive or less expressive than the last example that we just tasted? More. Absolutely. Put a little on your tongue, spit it out, and then let's take one more taste. Do you taste the same things that you smell? Yes. More so than the previous one. Yeah, it lines up pretty closely. Are there things that are present on your palate that you didn't get on the nose? Black pepper, absolutely. Yeah. Ginger spice, yeah. And we get a little coconutty thing too. It's got that same sort of tropical fruit, right? These two, save for some very minor differences in the water that they're using, are exactly the same thing. with one difference, and that difference is aging, right? One of these has spent 4 years, give or take, in American oak barrels. Brand new charred American oak barrels. Nick Moreland correctly said that this is made mostly with corn, so therefore this would be a bourbon, right? Buffalo Trace, actually, which I'm sure some of you have probably had. This should smell a little different than number 2. Ever so slightly.
Less spice.
Less spice, yep.
Caramel, more banana.
More caramel, more banana, yeah. Now if you look at 2 and 3 kind of next to each other, you may have to lift them off your mat just a little bit. The color difference should be pretty striking too, right? 3 is
More like
darker. Yeah, definitely. This is not always an indicator that something is older. There are plenty of spirit categories that allow small to not insignificant amounts of coloring and additives and things that can really drastically change the way a spirit looks, right? You may have had maybe some Jose Cuervo gold at some point in time in your collegiate career. And you'll know that starts off as a perfectly clear spirit that has a little bit of caramel coloring added to it, right? Both of these examples don't have any colorings or adjustments or anything made. So we can probably safely say that this is a lot older, right? This is in fact quite a bit older, right? Let's taste, and let's see if we find a little bit more fruit, a little bit more expressiveness on the palate. Raisins, figs, overripe fruit. It's very concentrated, right? Very interesting. Spicy. Has like a liveliness to it. But some of those fruits seem a little strange for rye. When I think of raisins, raisins are what? Raisins are grapes. Raisins are what kind of grapes? Dried. They're old, usually, right? Old dried up grapes, right? Is what we have in this glass, right? This is a cognac at 86 proof, so 43%. So you nailed it. It is a little warmer. This is from Paul Beau. This is their 30-year-old Grand Champagne cognac. So this has spent a long time waiting to get into that little tiny plastic cup.